Hello everyone and welcome to Devils United. This is the preview for Manchester United versus Manchester City. Hello everyone and welcome back to Devils United. Today I've got Bernard, I've got Charlotte. How are you, Bernard? Thank you for coming on.
I'm fine, Maisy. I'm a bit tired, as I said before. I do early hours, so it's always getting this time of night. It's nearly my bedtime, but I've got about another 2 to do after this, so I'll be up late anyway.
Yeah, you're working hard. I've got another 2 after this one as well. Charlotte, how are you?
I'm not bad, Maisy. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you as well, Charlie, for coming on. Not had you since Ronaldo came to Manchester United. So it's been a while.
Yeah, it has. And of course, that was disappointing. Hopefully, Sunday won't.
It seems like years ago now, doesn't it? That it seems like seasons ago.
Yeah,
it does. It feels such a long time, but Derby Day coming up, always one of the best games of the year to attend to. And I'll go with you first, Bernard, in terms of Manchester City. Some people argue this is a bit of a disappointing season for Manchester City because there was a 12-point lead a couple of weeks ago. Now there's the gap is nowhere near as big between you and Liverpool. So how would you judge Manchester City's season for you so far?
Well, it's funny because obviously I've been on Charlie's show and I do my own things, etc. And I think Charlie will probably remember Christmas time when I think we went 12 or 13 points clear. Obviously, Liverpool always had a couple of games in hand at least, so it was only ever 6 or 7 points. It wasn't loads. And I was saying we hadn't really played that well this season, and yet we were well clear. So I was saying, well, if we go up a couple of gears, the Premier League's going to be worried because we've not done anything. We've been in second gear for most of the season. That was Christmas time. We've got to March, and I still don't think we've got up those couple of gears. And obviously, it's come home to roost a little bit. We've dropped 5 points, of course, in the last 4 or 5 games, which is obviously because Liverpool are winning the games. It's made the difference. And I don't think City are any worse or better. It's just that obviously this is how it is at the moment. So I don't think personally we're as good as we were last year. But that's sometimes a good thing. Sometimes when you're not great, that's when you do silly things like win the Champions League when you're not the greatest team or you haven't got your best team out. That's how it happens. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the fact we're not perhaps as good as we were is a good omen. I mean, I'll live on that. I'll take that as a positive. Yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more as we go through this pod today.
Exactly. And for you, Charlotte, how do you feel like the season has gone for you as a Manchester City fan?
Yeah, well, a couple of weeks ago, we were 12 or 13 points clear, and now one result can change your title race completely. Is amazing, to be honest. That 3-2 loss at home to Tottenham, of course, weren't good for us, but opened up the title race completely for Liverpool. I think Chelsea dropped out of the title race a couple of weeks ago, to be honest, so it'll be a 2-horse race for the rest of the season.
I completely agree with that 100%. Hello to people who's already in the chat there of Niall, Vaughan, and there was another person in the chat, Vincent, there as well. Thank you all for tuning in. Bath Time with Vaughan did have a question for you both. I'll go with you, Charlie, with this one. Would you prefer Scott not to play for this game?
Well, to be honest, I couldn't care less if Scott McTominay plays it. As long as he doesn't do anything like score from the halfway line as he did a couple of years ago, I'm not that bothered, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Bernard? How would you feel about Scott playing or not?
He doesn't fill me with dread. Put it this way: if I see him pop up on not like the old days when you saw Scholes, Giggs, and all this lot popping up on the screen playing for the team. When Mr. Scott McTominay's in the starting 11, or if he's not in the starting 11, it's not going to bother me one way or the other. In all fairness, he has no impact on me whatsoever.
Well, of course, you've got such a good team, though, haven't you? Even the B team for Manchester City, I'd probably say, would potentially get top 4. It's actually so good. But coming into this season,
well, they could beat Peterborough, the B team. I'll give them that. We'll probably beat Peterborough. That's not the level, yeah.
You've done that, which is good, though. But here's another good question here by Vaughn. I'll go with you first with this, Bernard. What players do scare you in this Manchester United squad? I think it's a really good question, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've been watching. I don't watch United live. I never have done. I catch them on Match of the Day occasionally if I can be bothered, or I catch up the highlights from Sky when they do the little highlight clips and stuff like this. And you've got, I mean, for me, I mean, he's getting a lot of stick, isn't he, Mr. Ronaldo? But I mean, if he plays, which I assume he will, Maisy, you'll probably tell me if he'll start in this game or not. Of course, he'll love this. He will be up for this, and we know we have our little frailties at the back. And I think I'm quite impressed with Bruno. I never sort of rated him, but the bits I've seen of him, he sort of seems to be doing very, very well. So they have got players. I mean, certainly those two do frighten me from a defensive point of view, because we might be without Diaz by the looks of it. I've not heard anything today, but he could be out of the game, which is a big blow. Which will help you. But yeah, I do. Ronaldo, I know United fans, I've seen a lot of United fans slagging him off. As I said, I don't watch enough to know whether that's right or wrong. You could probably tell me. But yeah, he'll be up for this, as they all will, as they always have been the last few times we've met at the Etihad.
Yes, it is a crazy stat to think about, but I did read a stat what Dan James has won more Manchester derbies at the Etihad than Pep Guardiola.
Well, I love these stats, but I mean, I'll give you a couple of stats later about Mahrez and Sterling, which frightened me to death, to be honest with you, against United. But remind me later about that one. But
yes.
Yeah, stats are there to be, as Charlie will know, we like our stats. They're there to be proven wrong and altered, aren't they?
Yeah,
definitely. Same question here for you, Charlie. Is there anyone in particular in this United squad who scare you?
Just Ronaldo, to be honest. Give him a chance in the box, he's more than likely to score, to be honest. No one else really scares me, to be fair. I think we can get the back two of Varane and Maguire as well, to be honest, because, of course, last time Varane played against us, he got bullied by Gabriel Jesus all game in the Champions League. So hopefully that can happen again.
Well, we didn't play particularly well. It was basically like a training session at Old Trafford for yous. And to be honest, I was surprised how Manchester City didn't actually score more than 2 goals. I think it was probably being generous towards us when it came to the end of the game, to be honest, because we was absolutely appalling. I couldn't believe it. And our season in itself has been awful, probably from a Manchester City's point of view, you'd probably like to see. But a few more people has entered the chat. Hello to my dad. Hello there to Andrew as well. And hello to Box. Thank you all for tuning in. Box did have a question here for you, Charlie, which was about Wan-Bissaka. Are you worried about Wan-Bissaka bullying Sterling?
No. To be honest, I can say I don't even know if Wan-Bissaka is likely to play, because has he been playing recently with Dalot in the squad?
He's played a couple of games. He did actually play for the Leeds game. He is fully fit, but I'm not too sure what Ralph will do. I think maybe because of what did happen in terms of Sterling and Wan-Bissaka in the past, maybe he might start him. But if I do remember at that Old Trafford game, Wan-Bissaka was actually bullied by Phil Foden, because Phil Foden played on the wings, didn't he? And he was actually unable to catch up with him. So it's all dependent on what Pep will do, because I think Pep might do the same again at the Etihad. He might put Phil Foden on the wings.
Yeah, it's likely.
So, question here by Charlie, for Charlie and Bernard, which I'll go for you with first, Charlie. Can you see Manchester City winning the Champions League, depending on the look of the draw?
Do you want to go first, Bernard?
Well, you know me. As I said, I think I hinted at it before, didn't I? I think last year was, and the year before, when we got knocked, was it against Lyon? We got knocked out in the quarters by Lyon. I think it was the year before, the 2 years before, and last year were for me, when we should have won it. It's as simple as that. Certain things didn't work. Pep had a big say in that, and I think this year I don't think we're quite as good as we were last year. So as I said, it may be a good thing that because Chelsea have won it twice and they've been absolutely rubbish. So hopefully, if we're rubbish, we can win it at least once. So that'll be nice to see. But I certainly don't think we're as strong as we were last year. But again, we're only there's still a couple of months to go. We might hit that third and fourth gear, and if we do, hopefully if we can do it. But it will be, say, the luck of the draw as well. You've got to get a little bit of luck in the Champions League because it's a cup competition, simple as that. But I'm not afraid of anyone. I'm not worried about playing anybody, to be honest with you. I just worry about the fact of our guys on the day and Pep just getting it right, which he didn't do for a couple of times recently.
Yeah, definitely. Josh in the chat, thank you for tuning in. I've not seen you there before in the channel, so thank you for coming on. I'll go with you, Bernard, because I know you did mention that you don't think Manchester City has been as good this season. Why for you do you feel like they haven't been as good this season? Is it maybe some overthinking by the manager, or do you just think it could be down to the players or just in individual games?
I think Pep's admitted it himself. I think if you read between the lines, he's been having to play certain players in different positions because of the situation. Because, I know we play without the striker and we play the false nine. It's all right playing a false nine if you've got a guy who can play it really well. And we don't have a guy at this point in time who can play the false nine really well. So he switches about and messes about with it. And he has to do that to try and get the best out of certain players. So people like Bernardo, who's a legend, gets put into positions where he's not quite as good as he could be, and this is just to suit the team and just to suit how Pep plays, and there's nothing wrong with that. But so it is a mixture of that. It is knowing, obviously, since Aguero, we have just lost that ability, and we lost Delap as well. We lost Delap with an injury at the start of the season. I thought he was going to start bringing him slowly, not for the big games, of course, but try and work. Because if we were going to end up with someone like Haaland and Kane, which eventually we might do, we got this Argentinian lad now. We're going to have to adapt to playing a different way. And I thought Delap would be brought in to sort of practice little things for get certain easy, not being cruel, but against in the cup games or League Cup games, stuff like that. But it never happened because he got injured. So he has been milling around with this false nine, and I think that's the problem. He's been having to play, and I think he wants Grealish. I think he wants Grealish to play more central going forward. But Grealish has to settle in. Yeah, he still has to settle in. It's hard work getting into a Pep regime. As most players, there's not many players hit the ground playing for Pep, and I think he aims to do something similar with Grealish as well, that sort of position. But again, he's been injured as well, so he's had problems with that. So it is sort of round pegs in square holes, I think, sometimes. I think that's why we've not been quite at it as consistently as we have been other seasons.
For you, Charlie, because you have made a couple of signings, Jack Grealish in particular, which did hit transfer records. What have you felt like with your time for Grealish at Manchester City? Have you been impressed with him, or do you feel like he does need to adapt to this Pep routine? Because I know Pep will be probably very strict in his training, the way he plays. I can imagine him being like that.
Yeah, well, for most players who join City, it normally takes a year to settle in, get used to the new surroundings, new tactics. So just give him time and you'll start seeing the best of him next season, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I think you probably will see a lot more of Jack Grealish, and I think it's more with finding his best position as well, because we've seen him in the midfield, we have seen him there in the wings, seen him as a false nine. For you though, Charlie, where is Jack Grealish's best position if you want to play him?
Probably on the wing, to be honest, on the left-hand side, running at defenders. He can beat a man. He's got the pace. He's got the dribbling ability to do so as well. So I'd play him. He's a bit like Foden. He can play anywhere across the front five, central midfield, false nine, left wing, right wing. He can do a job there. So he's very versatile as well, Grealish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have seen a lot of Jack Grealish, haven't we, to say how good he really is. We've seen it in the Euros. We have seen it at Aston Villa as well. So it'd be good for him to actually get that little bit of more pace there at Manchester City to get them goals and assists, because we have seen a lot of Jack Grealish that a lot of people probably find it a bit funny. As a rival fan, you've got to laugh a bit yourself, because you have seen it on social media, Bernard, that Jack Grealish has got the same amount of goals and assists as Fred. But probably something you don't like to see, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's more than that with City, because, as I said, you are asking certain players to do certain things, and obviously because Jack Grealish, again, like Bernardo, like Foden, like KDB, even is moving around, being moved around to slot other people in. So that's why. I mean, I did a half yearly thing on Jack Grealish, and we come back to stats, I suppose, and on player ratings. And it's interesting. I do the Manchester Evening News ones as well. I sort of compile theirs and compare them to mine and stuff like that. And at the 19 games gone, Jack Grealish was top of theirs for player ratings. So, I mean, this is a guy who hasn't done much. This is a guy who hasn't assisted or done much. And he was second in mine. So, I mean, that's for me, told me a lot about Jack Grealish, sort of at Christmas time. And he's had a few injuries and had a few bevies since then, hasn't he? So we've not seen perhaps as much of him as we should have done. Perhaps I think it might go to, is it Ivy's, the nightclub that they were all at the other night? Perhaps he has a few in there. But, yeah. I'm sure he will come good, as Charlie was saying. I think this season, and the other night, that was a superb. I mean, that's what Pep wants him to do. That's what Pep wants Foden and Grealish to do, link up like that. You know, and they have to do it against better teams, of course, than Peterborough. But that's what Pep's aiming for, those runs into the middle, because he was obviously on the left, and then it was a superb run straight down the middle to play where I think Pep will like him to sort of wander around anyway eventually.
Mm-hmm. Hi there, Jack. Thank you for tuning in. He's got a really good question here, because Mahrez has really evolved under Pep Guardiola. I've been really impressed with him there on that right-hand side, and I think if Salah actually wasn't playing for Liverpool, he could have potentially got that right-hand side team of the year, couldn't he, really? But for you, Charlie, how has Mahrez evolved this year? Would he be a player to keep tabs on?
Yeah, he's been one of our most important players this season. Has got his highest scoring season in his career already, I believe, as well, after the goal at Peterborough the other night, and in early March. So that shows how good he's been playing recently. Takes penalties as well. Very, very. I can't remember him missing a penalty, to be honest.
Not for us, no.
Yeah,
well, Liverpool, I think, Charlie, but we won't mention
that. But that ball's still not come down to earth yet. So,
a bit like Kepa's penalty, that one, I think. There's Liverpool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kepa's penalty was hilarious.
Yeah. And of course, getting assists as well. Has been one of our most important players this season, in my opinion, anyway.
Mm-hmm. I'm saying question for you, Bernard, in terms of Mahrez. How do you feel like he's evolved in the role for you this year?
Yeah, I think the problem with Mahrez, I think we had to get used to his style of play. And for me, I used to think he was a lazy sod, to be honest with you. He used to annoy the hell out of me. And he never really turned up for the so-called smaller games. He never really turned up for those, or, you know, he would play a friendly, he'd just go through the motions and stuff like this. And I think what we've got used to it, he's got used to City now, and he is our... You know, we've been very surprised. He's not been the first name on. For me, he became undroppable as soon as he started putting these penalties in. He sort of game by Pep. So that's as much I know. That's as much I know about it. But yeah, he's a sort of special player that you just have to accept. He's got his little foibles. You know, he's not perfect by any means, but he should be one of the first names on the City team sheet. And sometimes Pep doesn't play him for whatever reason. Certainly against United this week, I would imagine he's going to be one of the first names on the team sheet, and I think he will cause United some problems.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And Mahrez on that right-hand wing, we've either got Luke Shaw or Alex Telles. Luke Shaw hasn't been the best this season, so I would be extremely worried for Mahrez to come against Luke Shaw, to be fairly honest. So I'm hoping we do manage to play Telles over Luke Shaw. But let's go more on to history of Manchester United and Manchester City. We'll go with our special moments, and we'll go with you, Charlie, of what was your best moment as a Manchester City fan in a Manchester derby?
Oh, there's a couple. There is a couple. Of course, I'm not the oldest, so I can't remember many Manchester derbies, to be fair. But for me, I've actually only seen us win once at home to United, which isn't a great start.
bad. That's bad.
Yeah, and I've had a season ticket for 7 years now. So for me, it's got to be the 44 passes, was it? Gundogan's goal against United, of course, in 18-19. Right at the end, of course, 44 passes before the goal as well. And, of course, the only time I've seen us win at home against United. So, yeah, that's what it'd be for me.
Mm-hmm. Same question there for you as well, Bernard.
Yeah, I have seen a few more City wins at the Etihad than Charlie has. But I was looking at the stats earlier for my thing, and obviously at home, I think in the league we've won 26 and lost 31 and drawn 25. So United have a great record at whether it's the Etihad or Main Road. So even though it has been special recently, they've always done okay at our place. But I'll give you two. I'll give you two examples. I'll go back because I'm old, as you know. I'll go back to 1974. I was there. I was at Old Trafford. Dennis Law back heel, which won't please you lot there. I was there for that one. I just about got out alive that day. It wasn't very pleasant on the old terraces there, but I'll give you that one. That was something special. That was the first derby I ever went to. That was first Old Trafford derby I'd ever been to, 1974. And as far as the Etihad, it has to be Vincent Kompany. That 1-0. Obviously, that the important season when we were going for the title, and it was a tight game, and it just he flew in for the header at the what is the South Stand now. I think that's one of my highlights. But then obviously I've got a few more than Charlie. Obviously things like Sean Wright Phillips' goal from the wing and stuff like this. But yeah, those two of you put me on the spot. That come straight to mind.
Mm-hmm. When I was thinking about my favourite memories, there was two, of course, what comes to mind for me. One was actually that 4-3 win for Manchester United versus Man City, where Michael Owen scored that last-minute goal.
Oh no, that's another one, isn't it? Rooney Shindy. That was a different one. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Yeah,
because Michael Owen had got, hadn't we played about 3 minutes over, about 5 minutes injury time? We're into about the 9th minute, I think, weren't we, at that stage when he put that one in, Michael Owen, yeah. And he's lived on that ever since, hasn't he?
It's the best memory he's ever had because, to be honest, he hit his prime when he was 19.
You can't argue with it. You can't argue with that.
It was his best memory just because he hit his prime when he was 19. I actually think he was just a squad play for Manchester United. And from what he goes on as a pundit, he seems to still love Liverpool, probably because it's more of his boyhood club there, of course.
Yeah.
That was definitely a special memory for me. And it was probably one of the earliest ones I remember as well, where we did end up winning, because it just felt so narrow, wasn't it? With obviously Tevez only recently going to Manchester City there too. So there was that little bit of blood.
It was a great game. It was actually a fantastic game as well for both. It's just a shame it didn't end up in the draw, because it was that sort of game where we had a good few 3-3s. I've been at some 3-3s at Main Road and at Old Trafford. Certainly Main Road. I'm not too sure about Old Trafford, but it should have ended. It was at that stage where City were on the brink of just sort of mastering United, if you like, around obviously the FA Cup semi-final time back in the 2011 time. That it was that little area where we're sort of almost taking over, but not quite. And we were the early men, and they say Michael Owen, he loved it, and we were gutted, obviously.
Of course. And the other one for me, of course, it is that overhead kick. It was brilliant there from Wayne Rooney. One of the best goals I've ever witnessed. That's for
even,
sure.
Even Charlie has it on his graphics. I keep saying to him, "Take it out, mate. You're not having that."
I don't do it. I don't do it. Don't do that.
I think Charlie secretly likes the memory, don't you, Charlie?
No, I despise the man and I despise the moment.
You've got an edit. You got an edit button, mate, just to cut it out.
I have no idea how I'd change it, to be honest, because it weren't me that did it. I just said, get a few pictures, put them into a video, and put a few messages, and I just see Rooney scoring an overhead kick. I wasn't happy, to say the least.
Well, you put one of the greatest Premier League memories in there, though. That's a good thing, at least. A few people have already.
Wonder why I don't get loads of subscribers after City fans see that and they turn him off.
They're probably thinking, Charlie, are you a United fan or are you a City fan?
Am I a United fan?
Not picking on him, Maisy. Now let's leave him alone.
I'll be nice, especially when I'm outnumbered by City fans here today. So I'll be nice. Don't worry, Charlie. A few people have already said their memories here. Vincent said Ronaldo hat-trick. Bathtime said McTominay from halfway line or Rooney's overhead. That McTominay half line was very good. And that was actually one of the last times before COVID where we were able to have fans there. And I'm sure that was around the 96th minute as well. And the last kick of the game,
absolutely shocking in that game.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie was there. I think I was there. I just thought, that was horrible game.
Horrible maybe for you, but brilliant for me, of course. Lanzel's here in the chat. Hello to Lanzel. He thinks it'll be a tight game. We normally raise our game against Man City, hoping for a win. Just hopeful. I'm the same. I'm feeling quite just hopeful. Red Devil Studio, thank you for tuning in. I hope you're well. Ravi has got a question here for myself. What players should we watch out for Man City? And I actually do believe, for me, one of the biggest threats at Manchester City is actually Phil Foden. And the reason for Phil Foden is that he come in, obviously, from the academy. A lot of people are saying, oh, Phil Foden's overrated, he's overrated. And I actually started to notice a lot more of Phil Foden. Do you know, in the June time after the lockdown issue happened, and he seemed to really thrive so well there under Pep Guardiola. And from then I knew if he carried on being how he is under Pep, he's just going to evolve. And I liked how Pep was able to adapt Phil Foden into the team rather than, as we say with some Manchester United players, they just get thrown in, they play every single week. But he managed to give the correct game time there for Phil Foden. And now for me, I would class him as one of the undroppable players there for Manchester City. Very rare I do see a bad game from Phil Foden. Just as you've touched on as well with Jack Grealish, Charlie, I'd say that you could play Phil Foden in numerous positions as well. He's a beast there in that false nine. He's brilliant on the left-hand side. And for me, he can also play an attacking midfield as well. For you, Bernard, how have you felt Phil Foden has been for you as an academy player coming up to the Manchester City team?
Yeah, I think you said it there. He's obviously he is one of these things where we didn't rush him in, we didn't loan him out. With people saying, "Oh, you're gonna, just loan him out for a season and things like this." But that's our new philosophy now. But if a player gets loaned out, there's always a possibility he won't play for the first team. So people like Tommy Doyle, who we love, obviously great. Obviously, the tradition of Tommy Doyle, for instance, has been loaned out, and you sort of get the feeling he's not going to come back and play for City's first team. And I think Foden and Palmer now as well is another one who's going to be the same sort of thing. I'm sure he's not going to loan Palmer out. McAtee's another one who possibly could go through the same scheme, and that's how he's doing it. And as I say, I think I've seen this new United lad, this Elegant, is it? What's he called? The lad.
Elanga.
Yeah, I mean, and they seem to just overplay him all the time. They throw him in and then they burn out. I mean, there's so many great, we hear it all the time from Old Trafford. Oh, this is the next Ronaldo. This is the next this, and then after a couple of seasons, you don't hear from him again. People like Rashford, for me, I say I don't watch United much, but he should be far better than he should have improved more than he did. And this is a problem with the younger players at United. They do break through and they play tremendously well, but it's so hard. And I think what he did with Phil Foden and what hopefully going forward, whether Pep's there or someone else comes in, we'll have this policy of, yes, certain guys, we will actually keep on the edge, get him in for cup games. I mean, Phil Foden's only 21 now, and yet he seems to have been there for years. But he's getting the game time. I think they did Phil Foden perfectly. I think it's worked perfectly, and it's a sort of blueprint going forward for other players and perhaps other clubs. Some clubs can't do that, can they? Some clubs have to throw them in because they don't have the squad depth. But someone like United, they should have a bit more forward planning. I think sometimes they don't sort of plan for these things. They put these guys in and expect them to do it week in, week out, and it's a little bit unfair. I think that's what we did with Phil Foden worked. Nothing to say we won't make it. Going forward, we won't ruin it with some other players. But yeah, I think most teams should try to do it like that. But I say not everyone's got that ability, have they, to do it with the squad depths and stuff like that. But yeah, it worked for him. It worked for Phil Foden. He's a far better player now, perhaps, than he'd been loaned around or been shoved into the first team at 18, 19 years old. He's still got a big career ahead of him, obviously.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you were saying about the Manchester United player youths, because we've seen Marcus Rashford. He was brilliant when he came through. A lot of people are saying it's confidence. A lot of people are saying it's injuries. I don't know what it is with Marcus Rashford, but I actually don't think he's been the same since 2020. I do really like Alanga, and I do like to see a lot more of Alanga, but I do look at it and I think because there's been so many players who's been loaned out now, and there's been other issues outside of football, we don't have the wingers anymore. We've only got 3 wingers properly, which is Sancho, Alanga, and we have got Rashford. They're the only proper wingers we've got. And of course, Lingard, who is an attacking midfielder who can play on the wings. They're the only proper ones we really have now. So it just feels like with Rashford's form, we've got no choice but to truly play Alanga. And it's just a difficult situation for Man United. And I just feel like we shouldn't have loaned as many players out. And of course, we should have, just as Manchester City do, scout these young players. You scouted Alvarez there from River Plate, and I actually personally wanted him at United after all these rumours. He's coming United, and he hasn't. I was disappointed. I was angry. But moving back onto Phil Foden, I'll go to you with this one, Charlie. Phil has caused us so much trouble. This is coming from a Liverpool fan. What would the lad's best position is good enough to play all over?
Yeah, well, anywhere attacking he can. Like I said before, central midfield, left wing, right wing, false 9. He can do it all. He's only 21. He's already won 3 Premier Leagues, 1 FA Cup, 4 League Cups, and 2 Community Shields as well. So, as well, he's one of England's bright stars coming up from the younger ages, and he's one of our more important players personally. And you saw it the other night at Peterborough, playing in central midfield, dropping deep, a beautiful ball over to Jack Grealish, who just tapped it into the goal. So you can see his quality every game he plays, really.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I completely agree with Phil Foden. If you was to play him, though, in this Manchester derby, where would you play him?
It's a tough one. I think.
Where do you think if he said to Pep, Charlie? Where would you say he'd say? All right, I want to play there, Pep. Where would you think he'd say? Because he has the best position. He definitely has the best position. He doesn't like playing, even though he can play other positions. He, again, like a lot of the City players, he does have a best position.
Yeah.
It's not down the middle, is it? It's not normally down the middle. It's down one of the sides, isn't it? Where he's probably at his best. But obviously other players are there as well, so he's limited as to how many times he can play him.
Yeah, you saw it last season when we won the league, got to the final of the Champions League. The most of the season, he was playing on the left-hand side. So I reckon maybe that's his best position. But
you see, that's Sterling's there, isn't that? That's the problem, because Pep loves to get Sterling in. If Sterling hits any sort of form, which he's almost did a few games ago, and he's gone a bit off again, a bit hit and miss. But that's the problem with City. That's what we're getting at, Maisy, with the actual playing players in the best positions, because obviously when you've got 7 or 8 quality midfielders, they're all going to run into each other's positions and stuff. So they're going to have to move around a little bit. They can't all play in the favourite positions. And Phil Foden very rarely plays in his favourite position, and yet he's very effective, as we've said.
Mm-hmm. Jesus was another one who was bought to play as a striker, and from what I was reading, he even prefers to play on the wings, if I'm correct as well, Bernard.
Yeah, I mean, again, for Brazil, he plays on the wing. Again, he doesn't play as a striker as such. And the trouble with Jesus, of course, now is that he's just not getting the games at the moment. Not particularly because he's been dropped or anything. He's had his injuries, and obviously it's hard to get back into the team because other players have took them positions that he likes. So he's another one who just sort of tends to play where Pep asks him to, but probably not in his best position again.
Mm-hmm. I'll go with this question for you as well, Bernard, and for you, Charlie. Can you see Man City going for Haaland in the summer or anytime soon?
Yeah, he's the main priority for me. One of the best strikers in the world, even in the age of 21, I think he is. Scoring goals for fun for Dortmund. Got injured recently, and you saw how that affected Dortmund. They got knocked out the Europa League by Rangers. So I think one of the best in the world, and definitely Dortmund's most important player, on par with Jude Bellingham for me.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Bernard? Do you think that Man City will go for Haaland soon?
I just think the money involves not the transfer fee or paying the agent, which is still a pain in the bum with that guy. But I just think the wages. I think City have a very very strict wage structure, and they're not going to bring even if say sponsors pay for some of it. It's going to put noses out of joint to bring Haaland in at the sort of money that's been muted. Silly money has been muted, and it's well above what people like KDB are on. So I just can't see it happening based on that. I mean, there might be other ways around it that I don't know the financial aspects of it, as what a club can do with sponsorships and stuff like this. But I just think at this point in time, it'd be lovely to have him. Of course it would. But have we got this Alvarez on the basis that perhaps we won't be getting him? I doubt it. I still doubt it. Charlie's confident. Other people are confident. I'm not until he's sat next to Cheeky signing that contract. I just can't see it happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me with Haaland, I think if out of the England clubs, I think he'll most likely go to Manchester City. But from what I was reading, he wants to go Real Madrid. He wants to have that chance of playing there, win trophies there. But from what I was reading there about Haaland too, he wants to be a bit like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and he wants to travel around and go to different clubs in different countries. So if that was the case, and you was, for instance, he went to Real Madrid first, and then you had to pay 200 million to get Haaland, plus you've got to pay the agent fees, you've got to pay his wages, just to have him there for 2 years. You could even say that was a bit of a blow, depending on, of course, what Haaland does bring for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at the situation with Torres. I mean, when he left us, he said he was he went to us as a sort of stepping stone to go over to Spain, of course. And I'm sure when he put his CV in and when he come for his interview, I'm sure he didn't say that. Oh, I'm just going to use you because I want to go back to Spain. And if that's Haaland's opinion, then that doesn't fit our blueprint. That doesn't fit our blueprint for what City do. We plan ahead. I think you had some comments there about when was the last youth players coming through to City and all this sort of thing. We've had 2 or 3 in the last 10 years, little sarky comments, but that's purely because obviously with the takeover, we're buying players. It's simple as that. We bought what we needed. We set up the academy to bring these players through, and now we're seeing the fruits of it. And what happened 7-8 years ago when we weren't bringing the kids through, it was a 10-year plan, if you like, to start. And it was said at the time, it's a 5-10 year plan. And that's what we do. Other clubs like United aren't doing that at the moment. They're sort of doing it for today. They're living for now. They're not living for what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years. And because City are doing it correctly and seeing the fruits of it, obviously people are still being a little bit sarky about it. But they're totally wrong because we're doing it the right way. So in the same way with Haaland, if he wants to use a club but eventually move on in 3 years' time, he just wouldn't fit in. He just wouldn't fit in with what we aim to do.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And that would be the reason for me why I wouldn't take Haaland at Manchester United, just to pay all that amount for Haaland just for him to go in that couple of years' time. It's just not ethical. And this is what I say Manchester United need to do. We need to look at long term, because you look at the likes who we've got at the moment, our strikers, our youngest striker is 34. And you look at things like that and you think that is not a long-term solution for Manchester United. Back when Sir Alex Ferguson was the manager, we was long-term solution. And of course, we've had numerous different managers, all different philosophies. We've got such an unbalanced team. So, and then, of course, we bring in players past the prime, and it's just simply not working there for the club whatsoever. I'll finish off on this final question before we do our score predictions from Jack. Out of the City United this year, who has been surprise of the season so far? If I was going to say from a Manchester United point of view, I would probably say Alanga would have to be my surprise one, coming through from the youth and then playing at such a high level for me. So Alanga would be there for me for Manchester United. And in terms of Manchester City, I'm going to have to go with Phil Foden again, just because I think every time I watch Phil Foden, it's just like he's improving more and more every single game. And we can never underestimate their Phil Foden. I think he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And from a Manchester United point of view, you just feel a little bit jealous. But what about you, Charlie? Who have been your surprises from both clubs?
For United, I'd probably agree with Alanga. At the start of the season, I wouldn't have expected him to play as many games as he has, and he scored quite important goals, even though he knocked United out the FA Cup, of course. But for City, I'd probably go with Riyad Mahrez, to be fair. I wouldn't have expected him to get as many goals and assists as he has so far at the start of the season anyway.
Same question for you, Bernard, as well.
Well, I'll throw in a funny one for United. Obviously, this guy for me was almost on the scrap heap. De Gea, I thought he's been absolutely brilliant, hasn't he? I mean, as I said, from what I've seen, he came. I say that Henderson lad came back across and went as number one, didn't he, for a while? I think Maisy, as I said, I'm not. My apologies if I get any of these little facts wrong on United. All my time's obviously dedicated to my team. But I think De Gea's been amazing this season. He's certainly part of the reason why you're still in fourth spot at the moment. All right, Arsenal might have a say in that over the next few weeks, but we know Arsenal will probably bottle it at some stage, like the neighbours Spurs. But so I'd say De Gea for United. I don't know, that's totally off the wall. I'm not too sure. But for City, I would certainly have said till Christmas time, probably Rodri and Cancelo were very close because they were both coming of age for City. Since Christmas, perhaps not so much. I've been a little bit down on Cancelo and been a little bit down on Rodri for the last couple of months or so. But I would say overall, yeah, I'd probably say Cancelo is out. He's just got to put some end product with what he does. He's brilliant. He's brilliant as an attacking left back, if you like. He's more a midfielder anyway, another Pep midfielder, but he is brilliant at what he does. He's silky, he's very, very good. He just needs to finish things off, and that's all we need. So I would say probably Cancelo overall at this point in time, but he has a lot more to offer, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to pick from a Manchester City point of view, but Cancelo is, for me, probably the best fullback in the league at the moment. Absolutely brilliant. You can play on the left or you can play on the right.
You can't defend, though. I mean, you'll be all right. You'll get past him easy enough because he's rubbish. He's a rubbish defender, but he's all right going forward.
That's the thing, though. These, as people say, modern day fullbacks are more about going forward than they are defending. And if they have got a brilliant centre back next to them, it doesn't matter too much about the defending kind of aspect. And we know that Manchester City do always have a lot of possession there of the ball, so you don't have to feel too worried about Cancelo not being a more of a defensive kind of fullback, if you agree.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Pep's game isn't defending. He's admitted that. I think we used to have the lowest ratings for tackles in the Premier League. We probably still have for tackling and defending. So, yeah, he's an ideal Pep player. As I said, we just need that little bit of an edge. We need that little bit of an edge. We need a bit more finishing off from him at the moment. Because his approach work is superb most of the time, but it's just that little bit more we need.
Yeah, definitely. There's a few more people who did enter the chat. Hello there to Static. Hello there to the Mikel Arteta talk. Don't worry, it's not actually Arteta about. And Ashunman, thank you there for tuning in. If I have missed any of you, I'm sorry about that. But let's do this. So we'll do. Thank you both for coming on. What we'll do, we'll shout out the score predictions and we'll shout out your socials as well. We'll start with you, Bernard. Thank you so much for coming on, making a debut on the channel. Been absolutely brilliant, being able to speak to you for the Manchester derby. Would you like to shout out your socials plus your score prediction as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'll give you a score prediction first. I think I'm going to go with me. I did an odd show today, and I was looking, and I'm totally confused. I'm totally confused how this is going to pan out. To be honest with you, just as likely for United to win this as we're to win it, especially based on recent history, which we've been awful. Pep just hasn't coped with United at the Etihad. Even though I wish it was at Old Trafford, we'd have I'd say yes, a definite City win, but it's not. It's at the Etihad. So I am going to go 3-1 for City, but as I said, I won't be surprised if it's 3-1 for United. But my heart's come into this, and I'm saying 3-1 to City. And yeah, you can get me on Twitter at Bernard_Dineen, and obviously I've got a little Citizen channel. I do other stuff as well. So if you put that in your search engines, there's no one else called Bernard Dineen. So you put that in your search, all my stuff will come up, all my YouTube stuff and everything. I do films and TV as well. So if you want to rest from football, Maisy, have a look at my film and TV stuff as well. Thanks very much.
I've watched a couple of them. They've been brilliant because you do the reviews, don't you, about the films and the programmes. I've watched a couple and they're great.
Great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. And Charlie, thank you again for making another appearance after the Ronaldo stream. Been great to have you on and have this discussion too. So would you like to shout out your socials and your score prediction?
Yeah, I'll start with a score prediction. I'll go 2-1 City. Mahrez and Sterling to score for City, probably Ronaldo for United, to be honest. And on YouTube, you can find me at Dugout Daily and Hit the Apex. Dugout Daily for football, Hit the Apex for F1 content, and at MCFC Hibs on Twitter and at FootyAwayFans_. Cheers for having me on again, Maisy.
It's been a pleasure having you both on, so thank you both for coming on. My score prediction, gonna go for a 2-1 to City, to be honest, because the way we're playing, I really can't see us getting any points out of this. I think it's going to be very, very difficult coming into this game, especially with the squad depth we do have. But in terms of Bernard's and Charlie's socials, the links are in the description below for both the Twitter and for the YouTube. So if you haven't already, check the channels out, give it a like, give it a subscribe as well. And do the same here for my channel. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. I will be next live. It is at 7 o'clock. I will be doing a preview for the women's game because we do take on Leicester at home. So that will be quite interesting. I've got Andy and Chloe on again, so you'll be able to hear all three of our opinions. But I'll see you all in 13 minutes. It's a goodbye from me.